Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's episode of The Dialogue. It is always a pleasure to be able to share, especially when it's like knowledge and wisdom that grants people understanding so that they can get practical insight on the things that they need to apply to their life to reach a desired outcome. So as you know on the show, our mantra is that we are healing souls one conversation at a time. And so the dialogue is so that I can share with you what God has breathed into my spirit. You can think about it or process it and go and speak with someone else about it. And then you two can conversate and be able to glean from the information that is given on this specific episode or platform. So I want to welcome everyone that is new. Thank you to those that are consistently watching or listening to the material, and I hope that it blesses you. So today I want to talk about, I want to elaborate on and give insight into the notion of how did I get here? And I was just upstairs a couple seconds ago. It's early morning. I am washing my hair, just preparing for the day. And I was just literally standing there, and it was like I was thinking about the people that say the words, I would never do this, and I would never do that, or I would never date this person. I would never go there. And this is more or less the motivation for this specific podcast. Because we've all found ourselves in that place. Like, how did I get here? How did I get in this relationship? How did I let so much time fly by? How did I not stand up for myself or advocate for myself or express how I feel? How did I get here? And here, if you're questioning it, you can obviously tell that it's not a good here. Like, if you really think about it. Because oftentimes when you're happy about the location, place, or stance that you're in, meaning your emotions or mental state, if it's good, you're excited. Like, wow, I made it here. I not that you arrived, because we'll always be transforming and evolving, but you're actually happy about where you are. But if you're saying, how did I get here? And you have this repulsive feeling where you kind of feel disgusted with yourself, you're going to ask the questions, but you're going to find the answers as well. And if you think back to getting to a place, a lot of times when you arrive there, it is because you made some type of decision in the past that led you on a trajectory to end up where you are. And unfortunately, and very often, sometimes we don't make the decision. Sometimes our circumstances decide for us. So let me give you an example. You have a young woman. When she was a child, she was molested over and over and over and over. And this actually does happen because a lot of the clients that I speak to actually do detail a lot of these circumstances and situations. Nevertheless, this young lady has been molested multiple times. And then when she gets older, her subconscious tells her that you're only good for sex. So she's extremely promiscuous. And then she finds herself in a loveless entanglement or relationship, or even a marriage, where the only time that it seems as though she's receiving intimacy is through sex, or her giving some type of favor, exploiting something that exploits her, because that's actually what happens when people are molested and raped. They are exploited and used for another person's needs and desires that are perverse, but they don't get anything that is healthy for them out of it. And so as she gets older, she's not getting anything for herself, but that's her normal. So her friends are around her, like she, talking to her friends about different situations that are occurring in her relationships. And her friends just can't understand, like, why do you not leave? Why do you remain? Why do you stay? And her question is, I don't know how I got here. I don't know how I got into this loveless relationship. I don't know how I got into this place where I'm not validated mentally or emotionally stimulated. I am not encouraged and strengthened, but I feel very tore down. But nobody knows that she had been molested. This is a secret that she's carrying with her. She's too embarrassed to say anything. And because of that, her present is now a reflection of her past. This also happens with men as well. Men in their childhood, when they are abused, neglected, or treated any type of way, if it's left unresolved or unhealed, they will find themselves in relationships that are similar to what they experienced in their past. Most people don't understand that when you end up in a certain spot that you're highly displeased with and unsatisfied with, you have to go back to your past, because your past sometimes is your answer. Maybe when you were a child, no one taught you about finances, and now you have so many different credit cards and loans and debt, and you're trying to clear everything up, but you never received the education to understand certain things about credit and how to build credit. How did you end up here? Meaning you're in bankruptcy, you're in foreclosure, you're lonely, you're depressed, you're comfort eating. You have no friends. You don't communicate with people well. You don't relate with people well. You can't get motivated to stay on the workout. You can't get motivated to go back to school. It feels like you're in a pit. And instead of you receiving the love and compassion to be able to go back into your childhood or wherever the incident takes place and heal so that you can move forward, you're not receiving that. You're getting people around you that are talking to you like you're nothing, demeaning you, degrading you, using your situation to make them feel adequate about themselves. It's like you're just getting eaten up by crocodiles. And I say that because I am a dreamer. I dream all the time. And if there is someone in my life that is not necessarily a good person, oftentimes I'll have dreams about snakes and things like that. And for this one specific person, I had a dream about a crocodile. Now, I had never, ever, ever had that type of dream before. And to me, crocodiles, like even their skin, like is very hard. It's very harsh, right? You remember the commercial? I think it was like Lubriderm or something like that, where the crocodile was walking across the screen and it was like, okay, if your skin is dry, it's like no lubrication. And when I look at that, I equate it to a person's heart. Like their heart is just very hard. But crocodiles don't come to be your friend. They actually come to eat you up, crush you, annihilate you so that you just fold up and disappear. When they eat you, there is nothing left. There's nothing left of you. And unfortunately, this is how some people are. When you're going through your life experience and you're trying to process where you are, you do not need harsh, hard-hearted people around you. Because they're either going to blame you or they're going to make you feel bad about the circumstances. And if you're trying to do everything that you can to get out of it, you should not feel bad. Because sometimes you got to the state that you're in, not because of yourself, but because of people. Excuse me, guys. I've had the flu for 24 to 48 hours, so I'm actually on the last leg of it, so I apologize. But nevertheless, you do not need people around you that are constantly criticizing, constantly condemning, and making you feel bad about decisions that you made without proper knowledge or proper wisdom. For instance, if you would have known that where you are at this present state would have happened, would you have done what you're doing now? Would you have done in the past what you did to get you where you are? For example, people who do drugs. I'm a chemical dependency counselor. I talk to people all the time who do drugs. And they always say, the first hit of it, they never find it again. And so they're just running to chase a high that they'll never obtain. And so they go to harsher drugs and harsher chemical dependency to try to elevate themselves past what they felt before. But if they knew that it was going to lead them to being homeless, in poverty, sleeping on the streets, stealing from people, not eating, not taking care of themselves, would they have done what they did? Because oftentimes we'll make an impulse decision, but we won't think about what's going to happen to us later. And that is how you end up where you are. You know, life goes so fast, and because there is such of a perplexed, I don't even want to say perplexed, but there's such of an influx in irrational decisions, like impulse decisions, where people are like, okay, I just got to get this done because I want this outcome, and I just want to be in this relationship because it feels good now. But eventually later, all those decisions normally crash down, fizzle out, burn, and die. And that's what happens to a person. They're in something, they feel emotionally dead, spiritually dead. They can't think straight. They can't process. Their creativity is gone. Their joy for life is gone. You ever look at somebody and that look of just dullness and dryness and disdain for life is there? And that's somebody that has made a decision that seemed like it was good for that current moment, but later on it caused them to die. Maybe sometimes for some people it's physical, unfortunately, because we know some people have decided things and have died from those decisions, but spiritually as well. For instance, Adam and Eve. Eve, was in the garden, and the snake came to her and showed her this lovely piece of fruit, and she ate it, and she died spiritually. And they were not in the same state that they were prior to that influencing serpent that came into their life to tell them to do certain things it was not going to produce life. And so once God banished them from the garden, they had everything they needed in the garden. Basically, they went from a place of luxury to a life of desperation and desire for, because once you get banished from something, you're desperate to go back. And so it produced death for them. And I'm pretty sure that after they got banished, they said, how did I end up here? They took the counsel of a serpent who lied to them and told them, if you do it like this, or if you do this or eat this, surely you won't die. Surely nothing won't happen to you. And this is exactly how people come into your life. Let's go out and have fun, but you have work in the morning. Oh, you won't lose your job. You good. Let's just go and have some fun. You sad, you depressed, your relationship is going a certain type of way, and you do it. But they didn't know that as they're influencing, you had already been late 3 or 4 times, and the job has told you, if you're late one more time, we're going to let you go. Surely you won't lose your job. You're in a relationship and your guy doesn't like your friends because they want to go out all the time, and you have children, and he sees them as being irresponsible, and they're like, he'll be all right. You young, you can have fun, you can do what you want to. And then you get back home the next morning because you stayed out all night and he packed up and left. Surely your relationship won't die. I say all that to say, sometimes we as people end up in places that we do because of the counsel of other people. And trust me, I've been there. I've taken counsel from people whose heart motives and intentions towards me were not pure, and then ended up killing something. It ended up destroying a part of my life. I could tell you an instance right now. I recently started working from home. Well, not recently, but I have been talking to a young female, and she was like, oh, just do the job until January and then quit and find something different. So glad that I didn't, because at the job I got promoted. There was a transition that had happened between 2 companies, and the one that I'm at now, I got promoted. What would have happened to me if I would have taken that counsel? I'm pretty sure I would have been sitting somewhere asking, how did I get here? I'm really, really careful with myself now as far as counsel that I take from people, even myself. Because at times you can do something and it seems like it's going to work out and it's going to be great and it's going to be grand. But then it puts you in a place where you're like, man, I wish that I wouldn't have did that. I wish that I wouldn't have dated this person. I wish that I didn't marry them. I wish that I didn't have a kid by them. I wish that I didn't move to this city. I wish that I didn't meet these people. This is what happens when we as people rush into things and we don't wait it out and let God reveal his full plan and allow us to take us the route that he wants us to go. Let's just say, hypothetically speaking, if Eve got the fruit and went back to her husband and told him who she got it from, I'm pretty sure that would have changed the whole narrative of the situation. I say that because there is safety in a multitude of wise counselors. I do not believe that we're meant to be in life and do life by ourselves. At some intervals, absolutely, God will strip every single person away from you to build you up, sometimes even to chastise and correct you. But he will also send people along your journey. But even with him doing that, you have to be careful, because there will be people that will come that will speak things contrary to the word of God. They'll even use scripture to try to back it up, but it's not for your situation. God will tell you to leave somebody, and because you guys have all this history together and things look so great on the outside, but you're losing more and more of him every single day. Like God in you is being diminished. He will tell you leave that person. But because society says, no, you guys have been together for so long, you're so cute, but they don't see that you're up all times of the hours at night and you can't sleep. You're turning over looking at the person disgusted while they're in la la land, dreaming away of how they're going to create a life with you and keep going in the future. And God is sitting there dealing with you, telling you to leave. Because you're losing him. You're losing God. You're becoming hateful and bitter and mean, because your life is not flourishing with this person. And you're sitting there and you're asking God, how did I get here? And he's showing you it's because of the connection. It's because of the person you're connected to. They don't want anything. They don't want God. They're not going to do anything to push you towards the Lord. And God wants you to have more of him. So he's telling you to leave. But it's ironic to me how a lot of times we as people won't let people in to see what's really going on, because when they do, sometimes you can be embarrassed. And so instead of doing what God says, people will stay and remain in a fruitless relationship or friendship or partnership, because this can even go into business as well. And everything is just dying off, withering up, out of order, out of alignment, and out of God's perfect will and plan for their lives. I have to be honest as well, because somewhere in life, we actually should question and reassess or reevaluate where we are in our life. Because this is where you can get to the point where it's like time has gone on and, you know, you've made certain decisions and they've landed you in a certain place. And you never stop to reassess where you are. And so you went the full route. You went full-fledged. And then you just get to a place of emptiness. I'm like, wow, I feel extremely empty. It's because you chased and you obtained and you got and you made money and false friendships and things like that, but God was left behind. And then you find yourself, how did I get here? Well, when money calls or people call or people are in need, you pick up to take care of themselves, but you don't do your Bible study. You're not reading. You're not praying. You're not in devotion. You're not in worship. You're not fasting. So you're leaving behind the main source that you need in order to operate or function and maintain all the resources He has given you. Like, God is the main source, but the resources that He gives us sometimes is people, which are relationships, jobs, opportunities, and things like that. One thing we as people can't get back is time. When we've sat and wasted time with people that the enemy knew was not going anywhere. He knew they didn't want to change. He knew, that they love being stuck in their ways because to you they portray, oh, I want to start a business with you. And I want to travel the world with you. And I want to just live in this big bubble cloud of blissfulness and love. But on the other side, the enemy is able to see her or them talking to their friends. I don't love him. I'm just using him for money. I'm not in love with him anymore. And the enemy sees that. And he'll keep driving you towards that person, full well knowing that on the other side, they're just wasting your potential. They're wasting your time. Because you're the one with the calling in God. You're the one with the responsibility to show up and be obedient. You're the one that God is trying to make it to this wonderful entrepreneur. They see that. The enemy sees that. So he will use a person. And then 12 years down the line, you'll say, how did I get here? This happens to a lot of people. I actually was having a conversation with someone last night, and they said it. I wasted my time. And what a lot of people, when they waste time on something that they thought was good, they're angry about it. Because it's like, I could have been further in life. I could have been with somebody that wanted something for themselves. I could have been in a different place. And I'm going to be honest, I think it's so much more frustrating and difficult for a person that has children, because if you are really dedicated to being the best version of yourself so that you can influence and impact your children in a good way, and you end up with somebody that doesn't, oh, you're disgusted. Because not only did they take you off track for what you were trying to do for your children got an opportunity to see you at a lower standard than what you normally would be because you are connected to this person. And then you wake up, how did I get here? All hope is not lost. All hope is not lost. I have done this many of times. I have had friendships where I was going one direction, they were going the other. But if I could be honest with you, God was pulling both of us in the same direction. They decided to go the other way because they listened to their friends. When they came back around, because they were in the same cycle, probably expected me to be in the same place, but I had progressed. They were in the same place. You can see the difference that they're saying, how did I get here? And I'm moving on with my life. That was one of the good things for me. But I've also had instances where I've had friends and people in my life that recommended that I do certain things. And I followed that advice. And it led to death or destruction in a situation. Relationships that were really meant to be in my life. And that's when you can tell, because whatever is really meant to be in your life, sometimes the enemy will put up such of a fuss and a fight to make sure, try and prevent it. He will send people to give you advice and counsel that's not of God. So that when you look down the line 3 or 4 years later, you're like, oh my God, I was doing what was right. I was supposed to do that. I think it's so funny that God is a God of construction because he will put something in your life or somebody in your life, or he will require you to do a mission and it's like nobody else is doing this, or the area that he wants you to work in is a complete mess. And the enemy will talk you out of it. Like, no, that person needs too much help. They're too messed up. They got this going on. And this is what you're telling yourself, but it's actually the enemy feeding it to you as well. And God is like, but you're their answer. They wouldn't be like this if you would just do what I tell you to do for them. They wouldn't be like this. This company would be better if you can get an opportunity to speak with the head person in charge and offer your services. This neighborhood is going to be better because of the mission that you have. And ironically enough, the enemy sends people. He is sending false confirmation. He'll play on your emotions and you don't do it, or you fail in the assignment, or you don't complete it. And it not only affects that person, it also impacts you too. Because when you don't do it, little did you know, it was an opportunity for growth or change or evolving. And so God will allow you to go through a situation or circumstance. And it will be long until you get the lesson. But he has to let it get to the point where you sit down long enough to actually ask yourself the questions, because he has the answers. And that's when you're seeking him and you're praying and you're asking, Lord, like, I need to redirect my life. I need a second chance, Lord. And for some of us, 3, 4, 5, 6, because God understands you didn't get to where you are on your own. You had people and many people coming to tell you to do this specific thing. That's just like a couple that God has ordained to be married and be together, right? His friends may be telling him bad things about the girl because they really like her. They want her for themselves. Or maybe she turned them down. They got offended and now they just want to see her miserable. Or you're the woman and you got your friends that are bitter and upset at every man walking the face of the earth. And so they're telling you, no, don't date him. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. And so 2 people have both of these obstacles, creating barriers and a wall in between their path when they're really supposed to connect. Oh, but there is a time when all that will fall to the wayside and those 2 people will wake up. And this is for business as well. You have people that are really meant to work together in business and structure and education or whatever mission God has given. And you have people talking to that person on one side, and then the other person is experiencing some conflict from other people. And then it's just static and the frequency is off. But then God will bring all that to an end when the people are seeking him, really asking, Lord, what is your desire? You'll end up there. You'll be in that place like, how did I end up here? You'll ask the questions and God will give you the answers so that you can go there. There meaning your destination, your mission, your assignment. Because once you get there, it's another level of there. Because here leads to there and it keeps going and going. But eventually it leads to your legacy. But you do have a starting point. And oftentimes that starting point, whatever counsel that you get from people, either and even how you feel about yourself and your emotions, your past situations and circumstances, it's going to wind you up somewhere. So we as people have to continue to be ever so mindful of ourselves, taking care of ourselves, doing good by ourselves. So I want to say to you, if you are someone that finds themselves in a difficult or trying situation, go back to the beginning and assess how you got there. Was it advice from your friends? Did you make a wrong turn? Did you decide to do the wrong thing deliberately and didn't understand where it would lead you to? Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of The Dialogue. We will be back with more content. As you know, on this show, we're healing souls one conversation at a time, and I hope that this blessed you. Don't forget to share it with someone and stay tuned for more content. Thank you.